Imagine the turbulent and chaotic atmosphere of Miami in the 1970s. On the surface, the city was known for its beautiful beaches, vibrant nightlife, and tropical allure. But behind this glittering image, a dark transformation was taking place. One of the most significant figures in this change was Griselda Blanco, also known as the Cocaine Queen. Blanco was not just a rumor. The bloody trail she left behind, the shattered lives, and her billion-dollar crime empire cemented her name in legend. But what set Blanco apart from an ordinary criminal? What were the fundamental elements that made her such a powerful and feared figure in the world of crime? Blanco's influence was not limited to drug trafficking alone. What made her truly dangerous was her cold-blooded approach to crime. Even in the face of a minor threat, her ability to devise ruthless plans solidified her dominance in the cartel world. On one occasion, a rival cartel leader attempted to interfere with Blanco's cocaine operations. Blanco, without hesitation, gave the order to eliminate this threat. The rival would be executed in front of his home, in broad daylight, for all to see. This execution not only showcased her brutal strategies, but also demonstrated the level of fear she instilled in the cartel world. As she coldly eliminated her enemies, she sent a clear message to all rivals. Anyone who dared to oppose her would pay a heavy price. These violent strategies were just one of the key tools Blanco used to maintain her control over the criminal world. Griselda Blanco was an extraordinarily intelligent and strategic woman who rose from the narrow streets of Colombia to become a fearless force in Miami's drug trade. Her title, Cocaine Queen, was not earned solely due to her ability to manage large-scale cocaine operations, but also through the ruthlessness and strategic intelligence she displayed in this trade. Blanco systematically eliminated her rivals, building an empire based on fear. And through this empire, she became a unique figure in the drug world. As one of the few major leaders controlling the flow of cocaine from Colombia to Miami, Blanco stood out as a powerful and remarkable character in an industry dominated by men. What set her apart from the others was her ability to use violence as an effective strategy, and her skill in combining this violence with clever plans to strengthen her power. However, it wasn't just violence that earned Blanco her title. Her mastery in finding complex and creative ways to smuggle cocaine into the United States also set her apart. She identified and exploited loopholes that the government and law enforcement overlooked. Additionally, while conducting large-scale cocaine trafficking, Blanco managed to keep herself in the background, avoiding direct risk, which was one of the key factors that distinguished her from other drug lords. Her strategic intelligence and ability to stay in the shadows allowed her to sustain her crime empire for years and remain one of the most feared names in the drug world. Blanco's process of taking control of the cocaine trade in Miami was based on more than just a violent war. It was built on a carefully planned strategy. First, she established meticulously designed trade routes to transport large quantities of cocaine into the United States. Through secret airways, small boats, and couriers, she made this flow regular and uninterrupted. However, her success was not only due to the skillful planning of these routes. She also effectively used bribes and threats to manipulate law enforcement. In this way, she ensured the security and continuity of her operations. Blanco's strategic maneuvers made her one of the most powerful figures in Miami's drug market. Blanco's strategy was not limited to successfully running drug shipments. Eliminating competition in the market was also a core part of this plan. By organizing ruthless assassinations of her rivals, she managed to dominate the cocaine trade in Miami almost single-handedly. As rival cartel leaders were systematically eliminated, Blanco's power grew even stronger. These violent methods not only secured control over the trade, but also created a culture of fear in Miami, further solidifying her authority. Through this atmosphere of fear, Blanco influenced both her enemies and everyone around her, maintaining her reign. What set Griselda Blanco apart from other drug lords was her combination of strategic intelligence and ruthlessness. Her leadership style was built on zero tolerance for her enemies, and in her world, anyone who posed a threat, betrayed her, or simply stood in her way had a clear fate: death. Blanco's cruelty was not limited to her rivals. She treated even her closest and most trusted associates in the business with the same level of violence, including her own family. Suspicion was at the center of her decisions, and whenever she sensed the slightest threat, she did not hesitate to eliminate them. In her world, trust was a fragile and temporary concept, and no one held permanent security. Griselda Blanco's reputation as one of the most dangerous drug lords known for ordering assassinations is not an exaggeration. Rumors suggest that she was directly or indirectly responsible for over 200 murders. These deaths were often the result of conflicts and power struggles with rival cartels. Blanco never hesitated to use murder as a tool to eliminate any threat. Moreover, in some cases, she didn't even need a reason to eliminate those she perceived as threats. This approach clearly demonstrated her propensity for violence and her ruthless nature. The methods Blanco used in her murders were highly professional. These assassinations, often carried out by loyal hitmen, were meticulously planned and executed. The assassins would vanish without a trace after the killings, proving Blanco's strategic and calculated leadership. These assassinations were often carried out in broad daylight in front of the public, and this was a way for Blanco to expand her empire of fear. Each execution further solidified her power while sending a clear message to her enemies. Those who opposed Blanco had two choices: surrender or die. This fear-driven strategy made Blanco a unique and extremely dangerous figure in the world of drugs. Griselda Blanco's crime empire was not limited to cocaine trafficking. It was also solidified through the laundering of the vast sums of money earned from this trade. Money laundering was one of the most important elements of ensuring permanence in the criminal world and securing the wealth obtained. Blanco demonstrated great skill in this area, developing highly sophisticated methods to legitimize the millions of dollars earned from cocaine trafficking. Offshore accounts, shell companies, and large-scale real estate investments were some of the most important tools in Blanco's money laundering network. These strategies made it nearly impossible to trace the money, and by taking advantage of the complexities of the financial system, Blanco managed to keep her operations hidden from view. This complex money laundering network that Blanco established not only increased her wealth, but also allowed her to avoid government attention. By laundering the money in this way, Blanco paved the way for the expansion of her crime empire and solidified her dominance in Miami. The profits from drug trafficking were preserved through these strategies, and by exploiting the weaknesses of the financial system, Blanco's power and wealth grew exponentially. Controlling the flow of money played a key role in keeping her empire afloat, making Blanco an even more effective figure in the criminal world. The drug world was mostly dominated by men, an unforgiving and dangerous realm. However, Griselda Blanco, with both her intelligence and ruthlessness, managed to rise in this male-dominated world and became one of the most powerful figures. Rising as a woman brought her both advantages and significant challenges. On one hand, her male rivals initially underestimating her made it easier for her to gain power. Gaining strength without drawing attention from her rivals allowed Blanco to progress step by step in this dangerous industry. However, to survive and reach the top in a male-dominated criminal world, she always had to be more ruthless, more strategic, and one step ahead. One of the advantages Blanco's gender brought her was the fact that her male rivals didn't take her seriously at first. This underestimation became an unexpected advantage for her as she built her empire. But over time, as Blanco's name became known and her ruthlessness came to light, this advantage was replaced by deep fear. Blanco not only used violence, but also her strategic intelligence to outmaneuver her male rivals, rising to the top of Miami's drug trade. Becoming such a powerful and feared figure as a woman in a male-dominated world clearly showcased her leadership skills and her mastery in psychological manipulation. Blanco's lasting presence in this world was achieved not only through physical strength, but also through her intelligence and cold-blooded strategies. Griselda Blanco was undoubtedly one of the key figures behind the rapid rise of cocaine trafficking in Miami. Her conflicts with rival cartels turned Miami's streets into a war zone. Every day, a new murder took place, and every week, another confrontation erupted. This chaos rapidly increased the city's crime rate, while Blanco became one of the main figures fueling these drug wars and escalating the level of violence in Miami. As competition among cartels intensified and enemies were systematically eliminated, the cocaine wars in Miami became even bloodier and more dangerous. Blanco, as a ruthless leader in these wars, pushed the city's chaotic atmosphere into an even darker dimension. Blanco's influence extended beyond Miami. Through her powerful cartel connections in Colombia, these wars took on an international scope. As drug trafficking expanded, so did the levels of violence and chaos. While Miami became the center of the cocaine trade, the conflicts between Blanco and her rivals turned the city into a stage for a war of crime. Her strategic intelligence and ruthless leadership were the driving forces behind Miami's darkest days during this period. Blanco left a terrifying legacy as a figure who profoundly impacted both the drug trade and the drug wars. Her era marked a turning point not only for the criminal world, but also for the violent transformation of an entire city. Griselda Blanco's reign eventually came to an end, just as every empire does. Her once invincible crime network began to crumble due to internal betrayals and increasing pressure from law enforcement. Blanco's empire, which had reigned over Miami for years, started to unravel in the early 1980s. She was finally arrested in the mid-80s and sentenced to a long prison term. The fall of the Cocaine Queen symbolized the collapse of an entire era in Miami's drug wars. With her arrest, one of the most notorious figures in the criminal world was finally behind bars, but the traces of the chaos she caused continued to linger for many years. However, even behind bars, Blanco's influence did not completely fade away. Her loyalists continued to control her criminal empire from the shadows. While she spent her final years behind bars, the legacy of the fear and violence she left behind still haunted Miami. Her rise, reign, and fall tell the story of a woman who managed to rise in one of the most dangerous worlds imaginable and leave an indelible mark on history. Griselda Blanco, even after her downfall, remains a name associated with crime, violence, and unrelenting ambition. The end of her story may have marked the conclusion of her reign, but her legacy continues to live on in the history of crime.